I want to bring in a foreign affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, for more on really what we're planning to do diplomatically, because Geeta, the contrast is glaring here. India, we launched Operation Dost when Turkey was going through that very, very tough time. And how does Turkey respond? By going ahead and helping Pakistan attack us with drones, missiles and whatnot. Diplomatically, is India going to be taking steps now against Turkey?
Right now, there is no information or confirmation, Akshita, of if there are diplomatic steps that are going to be taken against Turkey and China. The first steps that we saw were the steps that we've seen in the past also every time a country riles us. That is to look at the propaganda that's spread online, because that has become one of the most dangerous tools for these countries. And therefore, TRT World, a mouthpiece of or a government agency of the channel of Turkey, has been banned, and so has Global Times, government mouthpiece of the Chinese, spreading not just false propaganda but also spreading Pakistani propaganda is the reason why it had become really troublesome and worrisome. So that's one of the first steps that India has taken in terms of trade between the two countries. While there's about a little over 5 billion of trade exports to Turkey. With Azerbaijan, it's much lesser. But then these are also geopolitically, if you see, very important countries, and India has engaged them for a while now. The reason why we've had the Operation Dost, sent assistance and aid to Turkey. But the fact of the matter is that it is not an unknown fact that Turkey has always sided with Pakistan. For many years, we suffered at the hands of Turkey and the likes at the OIC on the issue of Kashmir. And now you're looking at a more conservative, a more extreme government in Turkey with Erdogan at the helm of affairs. And things are not looking very good for India when it comes to Turkey. So yes, there could be some diplomatic repercussions to the decisions that are being taken. It's not just about decisions, Akshita. It's about the open statements that are being made. Friendly warning. I mean, there are countries who've kept quiet or who've been rather decent about it by just talking about de-escalation. But to warn India at this day and age will really not go down well. And it has not gone down well with New Delhi. There were meetings in the morning. I'm sure this entire issue also came up, the reason why we saw the decision on banning of some of the accounts. But again, we'll have to wait and see how India takes it further with Turkey and with China.
You know, in the morning, we saw some of these accounts being banned. We're talking about accounts linked to, media agencies that are public broadcasters in Turkey as well as in China. That block has, however, been lifted. So we'll see really what the government strategy is going forward. Thanks, Geeta, for joining us with those details. We're also putting out some figures, some data about trade between India and Turkey. What does that look like right now? There's imports, there's exports too, and one particular highlight here is that a lot of the drone parts that Turkey gets, India exports. And so that itself speaks volumes right now of why there's a need for a crackdown. I'd like to bring in Karishma Asudani of Business Today TV for more on this. Karishma, run us through what the government is thinking here. As far as trade goes, could we see some crackdown by India, much like what we did with Pakistan?
Akshita, for us, in our situation with Turkey, we are way on a way more comfortable path, because if you see, we live on a surplus deficit when it comes to with both Turkey and Azerbaijan. Our exports to them for FY25 were close to about $85 billion, while our imports were only close to $2 billion, and similar numbers coming in from Azerbaijan. In fact, even way lesser when it comes to Baku, because we have only traded with them in millions, and that too in really minimum numbers. Now, when it comes to trade and the products, Turkey is majorly dependent on us for pharma products, for agriculture, for grains, for textiles, for rice and tea, and so is Azerbaijan. For India, there is going to be no problem, because we always have other markets to dump these products to, with whom we also share stronger bilateral relationships, like be it Latin America or we could go to parts of Africa or or even parts of Vietnam and Singapore where textiles will do really well. So it's rather going to be more problematic for Turkey, who is economically very much dependent in terms of trade aspects with India. And if they have to divert their trade prospects, keeping in mind that we may want to pull back from this diplomatic relationship, then it's going to be way more costlier for them and will strain them economically.
All right. Thanks very much, Karishma, for joining us with those details.